year 2000, and I was moving back to Vancouver. And I say back to Vancouver because when I first left home, that was the first place I moved to. And because I was young and foolish, I didn't leave myself with the greatest reputation. So this felt like I was coming full circle, like I was coming back to face my past, to face who I tried to be originally, with a new version of myself. I had worked a number of jobs, I had been to school, I'd hitchhiked back and forth across the country, I had lived everywhere from apartments to the side of the road. This time was going to be different. I was a different person now, and I was going to get better results. At least that was the plan. And it being the year 2000 made it seem especially fortuitous, and if there was no meaning in this move, I was going to force there to be against nature's will. The plan was to hitchhike there. I was going to hitchhike from Edmonton over to Jasper, down through the Rockies a bit, out by Field, and then over on down to Vancouver. It would take about 24 hours probably. But I left a little bit late in the day, so that means that I didn't get to Jasper till around midnight. So I couldn't see the mountains. It was just pitch black out. Now, I had really kind of been looking forward to seeing the mountains. I hadn't seen them in about 4 years or so it was kind of a big deal, and I wanted to see them, but so be it. I headed on down to the highway that goes to Banff, Lake Louise kind of area. Found a spot where the cars could pull over and stuck out my thumb. I didn't have to wait very long before someone pulled over either. There was a group of 3 guys. And I hopped on in the back seat. The driver tells me, he says, "Oh, we're just going down to Columbia Ice Fields and back, but we could take you that far." It's not really that helpful. There's no more cars there than there would be here, but nonetheless. It's like, why are you going down to Columbia Ice Fields this time of night? There's nothing to do there this time of night. It seemed a bit suspicious. And so this is when the guy beside me speaks up. And he tells me that he's doing a run from Calgary to Edmonton, Jasper, down through the Rockies, and then out by Dead Man Flats back to Calgary again. He's doing it to raise funds for MS. And each night they drive out the next little chunk of highway he's going to run, and then he runs it the following morning. So 2 years or so ago, whatever it was, he had been diagnosed with MS, and he had decided to do this, to try to give himself a goal and something to lift his spirits up. But more importantly than that, he claimed that God told him to do this. Well, I say, you got to listen to that. And he seemed to agree right away. It turns out he was a very religious guy. And so I had just taken theology at the time. I just got out of the University of Alberta, and I was really interested in that topic. So as soon as he brought up God, I wanted to know as much as I could possibly take in. I just started asking questions and sat back and listened for the rest of the trip as he explained his religion to me. He was a Sikh. And not a lot of it stuck with me, obviously. This is years ago. But one thing I do remember is at one point in the conversation, he turns to me and he says, "The most perfect Sikh is someone who can hold up a beautiful baby in one hand and slice off the head of his enemy with the other one." And I was a little rattled. You got to remember, I'm hitchhiking. I don't know these people. I'm in a car with 3 strangers. So it's a bit nerve-wracking to have a guy get that intense right in your face, scream a little bit. Nonetheless, I did find it kind of intriguing. The religious ideas I'd been playing with were almost all pacifistic in nature, so to hear someone phrase something in such an aggressive manner, but also balanced too, was intriguing to me. And anyways, so we carried on to Columbia Ice Fields, and they dropped me off there. And they all got out and said goodbye, stood around for a bit, took in the ice fields, and then they headed back to the, what little you could see of them. There was like a lamp from the parking lot behind us, kind of deal.
So we just sat around and stared at the blackness, and then they headed back to Jasper.
And they just left me there, which was pretty weird. I'm just by the side of the highway right next to the Columbia Ice Fields, and it's dead. It's dead quiet, and it's really, really dark. I can see the parking lot light a little bit in the distance, and one from a cafe-type building thing they have off to the side. But that's it. Right? So in a moment like that, any noise at all is terrifying. And remember, I still can't see the mountains. I'm really looking forward to seeing these mountains, but I still can't see anything. So I reached into my knapsack. I had a bottle of my dad's homemade wine I had brought with me. And I had a little bit of tobacco and a little bit of pot that a buddy gave me for the trip. Thanks, Larry. So I rolled up a spliff, opened up the bottle of wine, and relaxed. I knew there'd be no cars, and there was nothing. It was dead all night long. And I just sat there with my wine, watching the sun rise up over these mountains, my first view of them in years. And it was stunning. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. that guy's words kept coming back to me too, right? Hold up a beautiful baby in one hand and slice off the head of your enemy with the other. Who the hell's my enemy? And what the hell am I doing with a baby? Anyways, eventually, the sun came up all the way and cars started to show up. The parking lot started to fill up, and finally a car pulled over to pick me up as well. And I went and hopped in. It was one of those VW van, Westphalia type things. There was a German lady in it. I think she was a tourist of some kind, had a bit of a hippie vibe. Seemed like a cool lady. She drove me down to the highway that heads over to Field and kept heading off into Banff. And I walked on down to the highway and found a spot where the cars could pull over. It was still early in the morning. I'd probably make it to Vancouver sometime after dinner. Well, I'm done thinking about you. I'm done thinking at all. I'll walk into disaster before I learn to crawl. And I'll watch the world spin around me. I might learn a thing or two. I think I'm done with learning. And I'm done with thinking about you. I've watched the ships come to harbor, and I've seen the trains pass me by. And I stood alone on a highway, and I kissed the open sky. There's a curse that God laid upon you. All this time I'll say goodbye. We've washed all the blood off our hands now, so here, no need to cry. Well, I'm done with thinking about you. I'm done with thinking at all. I'll walk into disaster before I learn to crawl. Before I